I'd like to start off today's video by asking my audience a question. If the United States military is the greatest military on the face of the planet, and nobody can stand against us, why would we still be training infantry units how to conduct an organized retreat? You would think that would have been off the table a long time ago, given the disparity in the amount of money that we spend on the military and how much military hardware we have and the quality of our military. You would think that would be something we wouldn't train our soldiers to do, ever. How to conduct an organized strategic retreat. How to break contact with an enemy. Why? Why would we ever do that? Because sometimes on the battlefield you have to face reality as it is, not as it was or as you wish it to be. And that's just the way things are right now in late 2020 America. There's something happening, though, that is good news. And I've covered it in many other videos, and I'm going to show more today to back this up. This event, this election, is going to be the catalyst for the greatest rise in conservative values among the youth of this country that we have seen since before Reagan. You mark my words, and the Obamas know it. Say what you want about Big Mike and his wife Barry. They are not stupid people, and they know what's going on. See, they know there was fraud. They know the game that was played. But what they didn't expect was 72 million people to come out and vote for Donald Trump. They didn't expect that. Because they are dealing with the reality that most of, even after 8 years of them, most of America still doesn't agree with their vision of the future. And if you think I'm just making that up, if you think I'm just cooking that up out of thin air to try to make my audience feel better, let me show you some actual evidence. Piece of evidence number one. College students are pissed they wasted money on a COVID semester from hell. See, this is kind of one of those little hidden stories that these big liberal colleges aren't refunding tuition, exorbitant tuition, even though those numbers were based on benefits those kids didn't receive. You know, the whole being on campus experience, and being together and all of that, because that's what they sell. They sell the package. The reason people's jaws drop and hit the floor when they see how much tuition is because, well, they're selling an experience. Just like Disney World is selling an experience, so is college. But the college lecture halls are empty because of COVID and people are distance learning. Now, many people might think, well, but it's the same liberal professors. Oh, yes, it is. But there's a tactic. There's a tactic not many know about that has been taken away from the liberal professors. And I'm going to outline it. You see, back when you could cram a bunch of kids into a lecture hall like this, most of the kids would look around and see a whole bunch of kids just dressed like them, and they'd think they were all just students, right? Wrong. You see, dotted throughout here are not students. They might have been at one time graduate students, but their whole function there is to help support the professor. Meaning the professor is going to say things that are controversial and somewhat maybe illogical about Marxism or whatever baloney they're trying to push. And one of these plants will ask a question that kind of validates what's being taught to support the professor so they can get everybody going, oh, wow, this is happening organically. That was another student just like me, and I hadn't thought about that question, and that was a great question. And so they start getting them going down the road. And if anybody asks a question that contradicts the professor, These other quote unquote students or plants are there to shame them, mock them, and shout them down. They do this and have done this all the time for years and years and years. But you see, that tactic is gone now. That tactic is gone. Now, let's set that by itself just for one moment. This is CNN. In Greenwich, Connecticut, money is no object. Real estate there is on fire. Wait a minute. I thought liberal theology said that we need to all cram into the cities and live as efficiently as possible to make sure we have the lightest carbon footprint we can and jam ourselves into trains and buses and mass transit in order to save fossil fuels. The whole idea of living in a house with a yard and a garage. You see, that was antithetical to their teaching, but in the age of COVID, they are fleeing the cities like rats, and they're understanding, oh, this was a bad idea. This was really a bad idea. And mark my words, if things keep going the way they are, Chicago is going to be ground zero for something that's going to make Mad Max seem like My Little Pony. There are more people in the city of Chicago than there are in the state of Wisconsin. And if they lose mass transit, meaning people aren't using it because of COVID, and if COVID gets that bad, it's going to fall apart and fall apart fast. Not even the Illinois National Guard will be able to secure this city. It's too big. There's too many people. They're going to be talking about how can we get the refugees out. They're not even going to be trying to talk about how to retake the city, not for a long time. This is the L. This is the rail system that services Chicago. It is the lifeblood of Chicago. Chicago stops if this isn't running. They don't have enough street space for the amount of people. Not to mention the buses that are crammed, I mean crammed, barely standing room only every day. That's over. That's done. A very, very bad idea. And people will know this. So we have the college kids at home by themselves listening to this nonsense and going, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. And then they can go online and they can look up opposing views and make up their own decision. You see, that's something liberal professors could not have them doing. They had to get them in that mass think, group think environment to be able to manipulate them with their little plants in the audience. Without that, and I want to read something from this article from Greenwich, Connecticut, to show you exactly how the ideas and the tenets of the liberal theology have completely gone and got tossed out the window. With its large, stately million-dollar homes and manicured lawns, Greenwich, Connecticut has long been a serene enclave that veteran hedge fund managers and financial services executives call home. But after the pandemic hit, a new wave of wealthy New York City residents have flocked to the town seeking added space and a sense of suburban security. Suburban security is literally like talking about Satan to people like BLM and all those Marxists. They hate the suburbs. Quote, what you have is a visceral fear that you won't have someplace safe to go, said Mark Pruner, agent with Berkshire Hathaway. One of the things money gets you is an escape from fear. As a result, Greenwich, under an hour away from New York City, has seen an explosion in home sales. Median price, $2.125 million, up 18% from last year. Guys, they can't put people in homes fast enough. They don't have enough homes. But one of the requirements is that the house have a pool. We had more sales in the first 2 weeks of November than in all of November 2019. High-end homes priced between $2 million and $4 million grew by 370%, and contracts of homes between 5 and 10 up 250%. I'm trying to find the quote about the pool when I read this before. Even with a new real estate tax, buyers are unfazed, and a strong demand for rentals, too. Here it is. Quote, the holy grail for the summer was a nice house and a fair amount of land, but it had to have a beautiful pool. People that never considered renting are now even renting to get out of the city. To get out of the cities, plural. And when this happens, the kids are going to see this. They're going to see, oh, you know what? Wow, having a house, having a yard, having a big truck, an SUV, so that we can be comfortable and safe. That makes sense to me. That makes sense. All this other let's all live communally nonsense doesn't make sense to me, especially in the age of COVID. And there's no way, absolutely no way, CNN is going to be able to back off this. There's no way. Because it doesn't matter if you're, and even the science has said this, doesn't matter if you're wearing a mask if you're not social distancing. How does one social distance on the CTA or on any bus line or anywhere? It's not possible. You can't have a bus system running with a seat every 6 feet. You'll never make enough money. That's why vehicle sales are exploding. Not cars, not little electric death traps. Nope. Sierra 1500, big Ford quad cabs, giant Yukons and Suburbans. Meanwhile, BLM collapses. BLM gets a lesson in how trained Marxism really works, as leaders rake in millions while chapters get nothing. This is what they know. The old saying, cheaters never prosper, stands. It may look like initially they might be prospering, but when they know that they're the minority and getting to become more and more and more a minority because of just reality, it doesn't matter that they won. In fact, it's going to have done more damage than it did good. You see, because they don't want the win where they have the guy with the parentheses D by his name up in that high office in D.C. You see, they wanted their revolution to happen on the ground. See, they didn't really care. In fact, they might have preferred Trump stay president, as long as on the ground they were convincing more and more and more and more people that their way of thinking, their way of believing was right. We see the exact opposite is happening. The exact opposite is happening, and they are having to face reality as it is, not as they wish it were. Just like we should. And we should embrace this victory for conservatism and go forward. Stop worrying about one man. Stop worrying about one man or 4 years. What just happened is going to change the next 40 years. These kids who got ripped off by these colleges, see, they're going to become adults. And they're going to see what Washington, D.C. liberalism does. And how destructive it is. And how it's full of bad ideas simply based on emotionalistic thinking. They're going to remember this. They're going to remember what the value is of, and I know most of us can't afford to live in Greenwich, but the idea of having a house in the burbs, If they're admitting this about Greenwich, Connecticut on CNN, and that people are valuing that, what do you think that really means on the ground? If this is happening to the most liberal of liberals, the wealthy liberal elitists, what do you think's happening really on the ground? Truly, they're going to be ghost towns. Major cities in 3 to 5 years. Conservatism, even if it isn't in the White House, is going to rule from coast to coast, from Mexico to Canada. In reality, de facto, not de jure maybe, but de facto. And it's going to be started at the grassroots with the young people. Because we've taken away one of their big tools. And I shouldn't say we, COVID did. COVID took away their big indoctrination seminars. Because it's not the same thing as when you have somebody who's sitting at home in front of a Zoom meeting or whatever, just listening to the information and then can press the off button and then chew on it for a while by themselves. And go back on the internet and look at other things. You see here this whole group dynamic where everybody's all agreeing and anybody who's disagreeing is being shamed. That has an effect on kids. And the left doesn't have it anymore. They have empty lecture halls. So the game's up for them. And if you really, like I said, if you think I'm kidding, go look at all the articles about Obama. Go look at the headline of CNN. They're talking about Ivanka Trump now. They don't have anything. They were a one-trick pony. Trump. And now they're lost. The smartest thing he could do is shut up and walk away. They'd have nothing to talk about. They would eventually have to be confronted with the reality of Joe Biden and the resurgence of conservatism in this country. And their big, like I said, their theological talking points, their canon. The whole idea of, communal living and, the suburbs are bad and the rich people are bad. That's gone. All of that's gone. In reality, it's gone. Because this is what kids are going to want to drive. They're not going to be stuck in traffic and all those little Cracker Jack boxes. They're not going to want to, if they have to go someplace with 4 or 5 friends, they want to be able to spread out, have some distance. And because of the lack of economic activity, there's a huge glut of oil. What happens when there's a huge glut of oil? The price goes down. What happens when the price of oil goes down? The sale of big trucks and SUVs goes up. Economics 101. See, this is how you know the liberals didn't think about what they were doing. You see, people out there are probably already talking about wanting to destroy the U.S. economy and destroy the Western economy. Well, you see, in the process, they destroy themselves. Because as economic activity decreases, the supply of oil goes up. Supply of oil goes up. Price of oil goes down. People don't mind driving as much. And they can't keep these things on the lots, guys. I was thinking about buying a Sierra. And to get the one you want, it's a waiting list. And these people, they're gone. They've consumed themselves. They're not even a threat anymore. So, anyway, face reality as it is and be happy and be joyful for it. If you're truly a conservative, this is a time to rejoice. And don't pine for the way things were or the way you wish it was. Because sometimes things were never really as good as we remember them to be. You're never going to see a time where CNN, or at least I shouldn't say it that way. I've never seen a time where I've seen CNN so lost, so befuddled, and so literally living in an existential crisis. Because now they don't have a reason to exist anymore. What are they going to do? Nothing. They're going to try to rehash the old days of when Trump was president. Think about that for a minute. Like, share, subscribe.